Why are the strongest men that you know are silently trying to escape life? How do you diagnose depression in a man who says that he's never sad? And if toughness is killing men, why the fuck do we keep calling it strength?
Subscribe.
The Voices of Victory podcast show.
Voices of Victory.
Vision.
Voices of Victory.
Leadership.
Voices of Victory.
Workplace-related topics.
The Voices of Victory.
Voices of Victory. Voices of Victory. Voices of Victory.
It's time for the show. You are now listening to the Voices of Victory podcast show.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mario D. Leone.
Hello and welcome to Voices of Victory podcast show. I'm your host, Mario D. Leone, and today we're going to talk about rebooting men's mental health. This is literally going to be a study on it, a review, a straight talk review for all the men that are actually listening. So let's break it all down. Here's what you actually need to know. The major problem with men's mental health is that it is in crisis in 2025. And it's unnoticed because the societal norms that train men to stay quiet, to suffer silently, to be tough, fix it yourself, don't talk about your feelings, you're not allowed to cry, you're not allowed to feel shit. PTSD is nothing, right? These are the things that people say. PTSD is difficult, extremely difficult. But what's the fix? What's the fix? Beyond more therapy, there is a need for a male literate structure within the mental health system and mental health care that actually resonates with men's modern 2025 experiences, not operating off the ideologies from 30 years ago, and start to offer some practical tools that they can actually utilize. And you know what this is doing? This allows us to take a look at the structure of things, because it's not all about adding things, or let's add this, let's add that, let's add more onto mental health, let's add more onto ourselves. We have this tendency to fall like more is better. We're going to add more on our identities, and we're going to add more onto the system of mental health care. And the answer is not that. It's about subtracting. Start to strip away the non-essential. Start looking at the things that are not functioning, that are not useful for 2025. Start stripping away those ideas. And when it comes to our own identity, it's not about adding more, because we fall into that trap of another YouTube, another video, another podcast, another book, another this, another that. What about taking a look on the inside and say, is there any part of me here that I need to let go of? Like, is there some belief that's limiting here that I actually need to let go of? That's what I mean by subtraction. It's not always about adding. Knowledge is great when you can add, but the thing is we're running into is that we add all this knowledge and don't know how to apply it. The application of things, being able to have application, that's so crucial at the end of the day. So what are the big 5 problems that men are literally up against in 2025? Well, number 1, for starters, male suicide. The quiet killer that absolutely no one wants to talk about. I've had 2 good friends throughout my life, both killed themselves. Men die by suicide at 3 to 7 times the rate of women. And that's not to debase women. I'm speaking on men here. The midlife breaking point. And you know what? When they go through that midlife crisis, that midlife breaking point, it indicates a nice little spike in suicide in their late 40s, which is a shift from older age groups. Why though? What's the reason behind it? Well, feelings of being trapped, feelings of hopelessness, learned helplessness, worthlessness, low self-esteem, and a belief that no one would listen, and a belief that no one would understand. Get it? Now, what helps? Grounding, learning to ground your emotions, grounding techniques that are actually functionally useful, reminders of our purpose, reminders of our family, our legacy, our sovereignty. Sovereignty means to rule over, and that means to learn to rule over parts of your life again, to take that self-command. And that takes a little bit of time and a little bit of effort, but it's possible. That's what helps. And some practical steps to actually regain control. Sometimes practical steps that are outside of traditional therapy. Because again, we have to look at the structures that are in place. What is working? What is not? Male depression is another major one. Hidden in plain sight. Manifests as anger, irritability, workaholism, zoning out, numbing out, unhealthy escapism, exploding behavior rather than the overt sadness, right? We have to understand anger is a signal. It's an emotion. It's about expressing it in a healthy way. And that is something that we were not taught. They don't teach that in the school system, all right? But it's something that we need to step into. It's crucial, very crucial. And the problem is that the mental health diagnostics that they've been using are based on how women experience depression. So we need to look at it in a different way. We can't template match. It's really easy to template match one for the other. And that's where the bigger issue is right there. It's leading to misdiagnoses or missed cases in men because of that. We are living in a society of an overdiagnosis, underdiagnosis problem. And social media has a contribution to that. I'm not demonizing social media, but it has its contribution. And male depression is in plain sight. When it comes to our words actually matter. When men use terms like I'm tired, I'm exhausted, I'm on edge, I'm done, I'm not myself, I haven't been myself in 20 years, these kind of phrases. I'm exhausted, I'm emotionally bankrupt, whatever the case may be. And this is leading to fallout because, quite honestly, we need to do more research in terms of the struggle and find some suitable support. And if you are listening to this and you are a male and you need to talk to somebody and you can't do it on the phone and you can't do it face to face, please visit NAMI.org, NAMI.org. You can literally text them. If you want to talk to them, you can, but you can literally text them and have conversations. You can go further. That's the beauty of that. I just wanted to share that as a resource. Let's talk about the big five, and the third one is literally substance abuse. It's the masculine escape hatch. It's unhealthy escapism at best. Men are 2 to 3 times more likely to have a serious alcohol problem. Alcohol is linked to male suicides. Again, I'm not talking about anybody else. This is directed towards men today. And the reason is they're numbing themselves out. They're numbing their emotions. When emotions are not processed, because we weren't taught how to do that, then emotions become like perceived as threats. So when an emotion comes up, I want to escape. I'll escape to alcohol, escape to drugs, escape to opioids. Over 80% of fentanyl deaths in some areas of the world are men. And the pattern that we could see is the drowning, the sedating, the smoking out the pain instead of talking about it. And there are many different pathways, but those pathways have to have harm reduction strategies, especially where it relates to addiction, alcohol reduction. The next biggest problem is sinking deeper, coping alone. The man up, don't cry, handle it. PTSD is, okay, you'll be fine. Don't worry, it's no big deal. No, it's a big deal. These little mental masculine scripts lead to isolation, they lead to suppression, they lead to avoidance, and they lead to not understanding their identity as a whole. That's what it's about. And there's a consequence with that. Social isolation is a major suicide risk factor. Men rarely open up to doctors about true, actual distress because they feel like, if I show him, I'm less than a man. If I express that, I'm less than a man. Now, what I could share with you is that isolation is like the doorway to suicide. It can be. It's not a have to, ought to, or should. I'm not speaking in a cold, hard, fast rule here. But I am saying too much isolation can lead down that path because when you become disconnected from other people and then you go isolate, you start to become disconnected from who you are and you'll just want to escape this world. And again, I've had 2 very close friends who committed suicide, and it's not easy for the people that are still here, which is me, still being alive 20 some odd years later. There's changing tides. Things are indeed changing. Therapy is slowly being seen as a strategy, but therapy has always been looked at as a weakness. Oh, well, if I get therapy because I'm depressed, well, guess what? Then everybody's going to know that I'm getting therapy. Everybody's going to know that there's something wrong with me. And it's all about this external perception that it's some stigma. There's a problem with, that's how it's being perceived. I can't get mental health support whatsoever. Why? Because there's a stigma. Because people will start to see that. But you know what? There are those quiet strategies like NAMI.org. NAMI.org, having that ability to text. If you're that person in isolation, get a hold of them. Their text number is on their website. The mental health system wasn't built for men. It was built for men and women. Okay, that's what I want to be sure of. But I want to share that there's nothing wrong with that, with both sides of the fence being taken care of. But what we want to do is shift it to have application for both sides. In other words, mental health specifically for women, mental health specifically for men. It could be understood as applicable to both sides, but we don't want to template match the same problems. And that's what we're doing. What I'd like to say is that let's combine and apply, okay? Combine the information, then take a look at the problems for men in 2025, take a look at the problems for women in 2025, and start to create applications that are specific. That's what I'm talking about. Because access to care is not really the sole issue, because the care itself often doesn't just resonate with men. Now, there are things that actually work. There are programs that actually work. If we take a look at, let's say, Australia, there's programs that were built for men, which is the Well at Work. That focuses on male-heavy job roles. There's Movember, which uses sports and camaraderie to kind of create that essence. Men's Sheds, which is another one which provides purpose and community for older men. The Heads Up Guys, which is a digital support for male depression. These are just some of them. Bro Matters, which is goal-based therapy and mindfulness. The Dudes Club, which is indigenous-led and culturally grounded. So we have to look at the bigger picture. The failure point of this is that some of the e-health tools, some of the online health tools, they lack male-specific design. And again, this is not about doing anything other than tailoring. I'm talking about tailor to men, tailor to women, tailor to both, find out what works for both, but tailor it individually. So this way it's functional. We have to look at what's functional. That is crucial, because the bottom line is these tools have to align with how men think, but not just how they think in 2025 and the common problems that we're experiencing. The problems we're experiencing now is different than it was 30 years ago. That's crucial. So what actually helps with this whole concept, right? If we have to look at the big picture. For one is some kind of policy shift. There's got to be a policy shift. We got to recognize men as a vulnerable population. Integrate responsive care into suicide prevention, especially for men in the 40s and 50s. Okay? We have to fund some more research, prioritize some specific research on men's mental health, and separate from general data. That's what I'm trying to say overall. I'm not discarding the problems of women. I'm not discarding that data. I simply am saying, look at the data for both and source that data based on the problems for women in 2025 and the problems for men in 2025, because shit has changed in the past 30 years. It's crucial. And we have to start young. Start young. Start teaching young men that emotional pain is human, and be able to reframe that help as a means to seek bravery and vulnerability. And people don't like the word vulnerability. You know why? Because they get the connotation wrong. They misunderstand the difference between emotional vulnerability and the militaristic vulnerability of the way they explain a tank's vulnerability or leaving yourself vulnerable in combat. They totally mess those two up. I'm here to divide that down the middle and call bullshit on it. Because quite honestly, the connotation of vulnerability is that expression. It is that ability to be courageous with your emotion and to speak out, speak from the heart, and go from there. That's what vulnerability is. The expression of your emotions that are hidden, you've been holding inside, being able to bring that out. Vulnerability is like no longer hiding parts of who you are. You're able to share that. And at the end of the day, when we start to look at the militaristic point of view, then what happens is we start to treat vulnerability as you're leaving yourself open. That's a problem. So the militaristic vulnerability concept has literally polluted and destroyed the concept of emotional vulnerability. That's what I'm trying to say. You can watch dozens of episodes that I speak on about that. It's there. So start young, and we got to be able to train the pros as well. All right. There's clinicians that need to identify with male distress. Okay. Even in calm presentations, and understand family goals and of course purpose, right? Having purpose is huge. I've always said that purpose is not always what you do, because if it was, it would be mechanical. Purpose is the good feeling you get from what you do. And the biggest key kicker is that you are evolution across time. That being said, said, your purpose will change over time. But it's so crucial to understand how our purpose is going to be connected to our values, and values are connected to self-esteem, the value of honesty, the value of communication, the value of expression, self-expression, things of that nature. You start looking at self-esteem, we could see the core essence behind that, which is the values. This isn't just mental health. It's literally one big fat masculinity reset that actually needs to happen. And you know what? The current definition of what they call manhood is fucking outdated. It's absolutely outdated. And you know what? It can actually do more harm than good in a lot of ways. We need to rewrite the concept of the masculine code from a mental health perspective, because that's what this show is about. We need to expand our strength and include emotional connection and be able to touch down in communities and get people to ask for help if they need it, right? And we need to look at the structures and how they were built and how men actually function, not try to fit a round peg into a square hole, not try to force them to change their core nature, but to get them to understand their identity. So what is the main reason why mental health issues go ignored? Well, this over-dominant hyper-masculine script that dictates men to be tough, silent, and self-reliant. And this very culture training, you know what happens? It leads them to suffer very quietly and very internally. And they avoid seeking any kind of help. And they make their struggles less visible to others and, of course, themselves. So how do the male suicide rates actually compare? Well, men die by suicide at the rate to 3 to 7 times higher than women. And you know what? That current information, it shows a significant spike in the suicide rates. Allow me to go a little bit deeper as to where I got that. So for that data and information, because I'm a research hound, I love to research, there are three sources. The SPRC is the first one, the Suicide Prevention Resource Center. The male suicide research in countries like the United States, United Kingdom, and Canada, okay? 75 to 80% of suicide deaths are male, meaning males die by suicide roughly 3 to 4 more times than females do. And specifically in the US, the male suicide rates are 4 times higher than female rates. And again, this is not debasing what women are going through. That's not what I'm doing. I'm here to underline the word in the sentence. That's all. Resource number 2, United States government and CDC. Okay, as 2022 in the United States, guess what? Male suicide rate was 22.9 per 100,000 versus 5.9 per 100,000 for women, a nearly 4x gap, a 4 times gap. So this aligns with the CDC and this aligns with the NCHS reporting for consistent male predominance in terms of the suicide numbers. The last one in terms of research is the midlife suicide risk pattern, okay? And this one comes from Science Daily as well as verywellmind.com. The framework analysis that's found, the data that's found in regards to middle-aged men, especially ages from 45 to 54, they carry the highest age-specific suicide risk. And you know what this does? It highlights a clear midlife spike. And the Science Daily aspect of it is that men in their late 40s have nearly double the suicide rate of those in their 30s or 60s. Interesting, right? So yeah, that's the summary overall, 3 to 4 times more, you know. And at the end of the day, it's a hard pill to swallow. It's a really difficult thing to experience and understand. So we need a reset. We do. We need to take a good hard look at the big picture of everything, because substance abuse is literally a coping tool for men. The hyper masculine script needs to get some men to ask for help. It's important. People are afraid to help because they think it's a sign of weakness, and it's not. So there are people that may look at the big picture. They say, well, what might be more useful than immediate therapy during a suicidal crisis for a man? Well, during a suicidal crisis, a man could benefit from more practical steps to regain a sense of control and a sense of purpose. Right? Reminders of his why. Why? You got to remember, for every belief that exists, there's like 4 or 5 subsequent reasons why. If you have a belief, you will have several reasons why underneath that. That's the whole thing. So let's go ahead and move on from here. Let's go ahead and close the show. If you're a man and you're listening and we want to talk about it on Discord, we can do it. We can actually do it if you wanted to. That's fine. You can actually do that. And if you don't, that's fine. Remember, NAMI.org, NAMI.org, along with the other organizations that I've mentioned here on the show. And I want to the ladies that are listening, because some of you might be listening in regards to husband, boyfriend, cousin, brother, whatever the case may be. I want to be redundant in saying, because I have a sister, I have a mother that I love and respect. And I want to state this, is that there is no heaping of scorn on women in this episode. I'm simply bringing to the table that we have to start looking at the tools in what we actually use and tailor those tools towards what's going on for men in 2025. And I believe we should do the same thing for women. And you know what? I might actually do a show on it for women. And I might have someone come on as kind of like a co-host, because it's always good to have that second pair of eyes. You want to be objective, and by being objective, it's good to invite another person on to really express all that, to be able to have a sounding board with that, to look at the modern 2025 problems with women as well. So that's all I'm going to say. And if you're a man out there and you're suffering silently, my heart goes out to you. And in regards to suicide, I understand exactly how some people feel, because losing two friends, it's not a small thing. It's not a small thing at all. Have a great day, and don't forget to like, subscribe. If you do want to buy a coffee to support me on this show, you could always find the Buy Me a Coffee link that's in the description for this podcast, on YouTube. And feel free to reach out. Have a great day. Take care.